Now, what year was that, Rick?
That I lived there or when I was born?
When you were born?
I was born in 1948. And
Now, go ahead.
grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Uh, Moved to New York as an infant. And my dad was at West Point, stationed there. He was in the Army at the time. My next brother was born there at West Point. My dad got out. We went back to Pennsylvania and, you know, grew up a street urchin and, hanging on the playgrounds. And, back then kids were outdoorsy. We didn't have indoor things to do unless you were reading a book. But, went through all the public schools, played all, many different sports. And probably got acclimated to the Marine Corps. My favorite uncle, he joined in the probably right at the end of Korea. He entered, and he ended up with 36 years, finished in E9. Most of it was air wing, and his next brother is also my uncle, is not quite 4 years older, and he joined. He made it to E9. Their oldest brother, he was a Navy World War II guy. But on my dad's side, both of them were in the Army, and we've had relatives in everything since the Revolution. And, that and watching John Wayne and Sergeant Stryker. But that was one goal. And actually signed as a senior in high school that spring. Me and a friend that we graduated together, we signed on the 120-day delay program. So we signed either April or May, and we left a couple of days into August of '66. And two other friends that were a year behind us both had quit school and also were going with us. So there were going to be four. One of them had an appendix taken out, so they ended up a week behind us at Paris Island. But we would see them on the drill field. Or spam.
That's okay, Rabbi. No worries, sir.
So yeah, we joined. We got to Paris Island in August of '66. Planes were on strike, and they took us on a bus, and we were in Philadelphia. And there was an accumulation of us that from Jersey, Pennsylvania, a couple from West Virginia that met in Philadelphia. We got the train there and hooked up with a bunch from New England, New York, and we rode this train down, down south. Then took the bus into Paris Island at night. Got on them yellow footprints, and the adventure, continued.
Well, what was your first impression of Paris Island?
Well, they get you there at night, so you're tired, you're not acclimated, you can't see much, and you got a receiving sergeant, screaming, and it's like, yeah, okay. So, till you finally get to the barracks that you'll be in for your boot camp platoon. Uh, it's kind of hectic. You don't have a clue, what the MO is going to be. other than everybody's loud, they're yelling, and people are somewhat confused, and they may say something in a military manner, and uh, kids out of New York or wherever we were from, uh, it didn't mean a whole lot, and so you get more abuse for that. But once you get in and you got your drill instructors, and you kind of settle into the routine, and a lot of it is breaking you down physically, build you back the way they want you, and mentally. And some of us were really in good shape, and some not as good. And I thought it was pretty easy until you'd be smiling and stuff, and they want to wipe the smile off, because that's not good. You don't smile. Anyway, that got me a little trouble, but uh, it was it was different. It was kind of what an uncle had told me, and uh, you know, if you kept under the radar, I you did all right, and you weren't in anybody's direct focus. So uh, you got to learn a lot of basic knowledge uh, for say a basic grunt, basic infantry, and a lot of physical. You start to learn about weapons, and breaking it down into where you can do it blindfolded. You can tear it down, put it together, and you learn it's your best friend. It would, and being being the summer of '66, Vietnam was heating up, and you finally get through, toward the end of boot camp, and then uh, they're assigning MOSs. So you'll get like an 0311 is a basic infantryman in the Marine Corps, and a lot of probably the majority of guys were assigned to be an 0311. And during boot camp, you went through a bunch of tests, and the testing, some of it was like Morse code or whatever, mechanics, uh, and it honed in on how you did in these multiple categories. So you got this GCT score, and it kind of guided where they thought you would slot. And if you scored, like, I think it was like 120 and above, uh, that might have been officer material. And depending on what you did, that's how you slotted. Some guys ended up, I don't know how one guy ended up a journalism guy, or some guys ended up going to radio, some became engineers, stuff like that. But we all got assigned. We had our graduation, walked the grinder, parents came, and next day we're on the buses going to Camp Geiger up at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and that was a more advanced infantry. A couple, 3-4 weeks. It wasn't too long, but that's where he got it indoctrinated to where, I'd heard about Recon, and up there we found more about it. And at that point, they would take volunteers, and they would come and say do interviews, and it would be a PT and a mental, and at that point, I mean, you're still in ITR.
Right.
So depending on the progression and acceptance. When ITR finished, you could go and end up with Recon Battalion or at Second Force there. And the way it worked out, a lot of us, we were 0311s, and we were already slated to go to staging out at Camp Pendleton and across the pond. And I had twisted a knee when they came to do the interviews. And so I didn't really get to, other than put my name in the hat, to test and grade out. So, but when got out of the ITR, went home a few days and then went to California. And at that time, a lot of people were going to Vietnam on troop ships. And we left out of San Diego early January, like the 5th or 6th, we boarded the ship. It was roughly a 20-day ride. Stop at Okinawa, the drop off sea bags. We didn't get off, and pulled into Da Nang Harbor. And and I got my orders, and my orders were, to go to First Force. So I got to go into Force, which at that time there wasn't enough stateside trained Force reconnaissance folk to man up the company for what was needed. So a lot of guys were that shown interest volunteered. Some guys I don't think did volunteer. A lot of radio guys we need radio guys, and they might have went to a radio company and then got sent to us. But a few of us went to the company, and what you did was they had a RIP program, Recon Indoctrination, so that even if you came from Second Force, it might have been a brush up for you. For those that didn't have the stateside training, it was good because you had more map reading, compass reading, indoctrination with the radios. We went to landmine, booby traps, and roughly 7 to 10 days of training. And it gave you a basic background. And originally, when I got to the company, I was assigned to the 5th Platoon, which only lasted a couple of days. And then when I was in the RIP program, I went to the 1st Platoon and stayed there until 1968. So getting in country, got indoctrinated, and once you go through the RIP, now it's a matter of being in a platoon, assigned to a team, working with the team and learning all the ins and outs of, besides patrolling, it's very critical about how to pack, what to take, what to pack where, and the care of what weapons. And the guys I was with, very good, very helpful. I didn't really know them, but
Well, Rick, if I could chime in and ask a quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When you're going out into the field, recon-wise, what do you need to take with you? What are you being taught to pack, and how do you pack it into your ruck?
depending on what kind of patrol, how long, and where you're going. Uh, when you're getting ready for patrol, the team leader would get an operation order, and it would give you a mission. And with the mission, it would say, where you're going, and it would give you a map sheet. So we would have a map of where we're going, and you can look at it, and you can see, is there water there? If there's, perceived to be running water, uh, we may take 4 canteens or 5. Typically, a patrol would go 5 days. And for the 5 days, I would take 5 canteens that I had knowledge that we had running water. And if we weren't sure, or other teams, the intelligence, since we ran a lot of the same areas and you accumulate the data, no running water, or it may only fill the dry stream beds are only having water during monsoon. There may be some stagnant or slow, but we always carried halazone tablets that you would put in the water. Tastes like crap, but I mean, it would kill most of the stuff that was in the water. Typically, when it was flowing freely water, it'd be okay, but still, we generally would put halazone. So once you look at what you're doing, how long, that would say how much water I need to take. All right. So typically, I know I'd taken as many as 8, and heavy. That makes your load heavy. So you got that. You've got to take food, for that many days. Plus, it's not a gimme that on the 5th day you're coming home. Many times you get extended. Weather extends you. You may get stuck out there 2 or 3 more days, to where you might be eating a anti-acid tablet that was in your med kit. But as we're doing our operation order, and we would brief, you have your standard, your water, your food. Okay, you got your weapons, how many magazines you're going to take. In the beginning, when I was carrying an M14, I would have 15 magazines, 20 rounds. The smarter I got about water and food, I would get up to 18 magazines. 20 is a real burden for my, as small as I am. All right, but that's an M14. And beside that, the rest of the ordnance that we would take with us. And we would be taking det cord, we'd be taking igniters, we'd be taking, we always took blocks of 1-pound blocks of C4. We took for our M79. Somebody carried the M79. Well, I carried that in the beginning. Well, there I would carry like 36, 42 rounds, and then whoever else, they would carry a bandolier of 6 or 12.
Would you guys carry any of the shotgun shells with the N79 too?
Flechette.
Flechette?
I would carry flechette. I didn't really take shotgun. There were some guys that actually carried a shotgun, but ours, we really didn't. But the flechette I carried and the 40 millimeter HE round. Later, they did come up with a CS grenade, gas grenade. But in the beginning, we still had the M14 adapter to fire Willie Peter. So we had to carry that stuff. And claymores. That's what I was trying to remember. I mean, we would carry so many claymores. So a lot of this we had to distribute, and depending how many folks were going with you. And when First Forces at Dong Ha was primarily running a 4-man team. When the company moved from Dong Ha down and Third went north, we had actually split. Our even platoons, 2, 4, and 6, went further south to Chulai. 1, 3, and 5, we stayed in Da Nang, and we lived at Camp Reasoner with the 1st Recon Battalion. And the battalion had Bravo and Charlie Company and most of H&S there. And then down south at Chulai, they had Alpha and Delta. And Echo Company wasn't established until it started in December 67, and then into early 68 is when Echo became active for the battalion. But as we do our briefing to go out, certain things are assigned, certain things we put in a same place. I mean, maps, we all carried in a pocket. Compasses, we had wrist compasses. You had the lensatic, the lensmatic compasses. The radio guys, they carried all the code sheets and stuff. We kept notebooks. And the team leader would, typically assign the positions. Once we honed in, and you learned. My first tour in '67. I mean, I learned to run point. I learned to run backup point second. I was an M79 guy in the middle of the group, and I learned tail end. So I learned most of the positions. You learn how to use the radio, but I wasn't a radio man. Thankfully, I didn't carry that extra 25 pounds. My second tour, I was mostly assistant team leader and a team leader. But I learned all the positions, and I did everything except carry the radio, and I didn't miss it. So early '67, we started out and got a lot of help. I learned very quickly that when you're packing chow, you don't need 3 meals every day. I got to where I would take, I'd have a can of fruit every day and maybe a heavy, because my first patrol, I packed all this stuff, and it was like a troll trying to stay forward, and going out the chopper that first day, we came down on top of elephant grass, and you never get to the bottom, so you don't know how far it is, and it might have been 8 feet, and I went out, and the weight of everything I was carrying, I landed flat on my back, like took the air out of me, and I learned very quick about about that kind of stuff on what I can do without. And very, very interesting. That first patrol, my first patrol, we were on the Angthu slope, and I don't know if you'd read or know of Lieutenant Andy Finlayson,
Yes, sir.
but it was my first patrol and Andy's second. And I had the N79, M14, and it was actually one of those patrols where choppers put you in one place when you were supposed to go down somewhere else. And we ended up firing a spot around on a hill to hone in on, so we knew exactly where we were. And not too much adventure. I mean, we heard voices, and then the one night, you're in a 360 harbor site, and we took 1 hour watches, and when it was my watch, it was hard to see, but the guy that gave me the watch cupped his ear like he was hearing something, and a few minutes after I took the radio, I was hearing all these noises. I'm thinking, what could this be? Being out there the first time, it was either my first or second night, I don't even remember, but my eyes must have been giant saucers. But I woke him up, and we woke everybody up, and whatever it was, it started running at us, charging us, and I had the flechette rounds in, and I popped some of those, and 14s went off, and we got through all the noise, and it got real quiet again, and we didn't hear anything. And then in the morning, we couldn't find anything, no blood trails, and had no clue what it was. And the more I thought about it later, with different adventures with tigers and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. It could have been a tiger. It could have been rock apes. But whatever it is, don't know if we hit anything, but we scared the hell out of it, turned around and ran away. And that was my first little firing adventure. I don't want to call it a firefight because they didn't fire back. And but everything going back into the debriefing for our patrol, you get into all the hand signals because you don't verbally talk about anything really. The radio guy will be in hush, or he'll just key. Guys on the radio or the relays, if you're Alpha Sierra, click one time. So it's very, very rare that you're talking. If you're in the artillery fan and you're calling artillery, you'll be whispering coordinates, to call artillery, or if you're talking to an AO for air support. But all things that you take time to learn and to use, and you practice your IA, your immediate action drills. Again, very, very critical, and we took them very serious. And you get in your order of march, and we would practice, frontal contact, an ambush left, ambush right. I mean, if you're hit in the front, every other one is left and right. If you're hit on the left, what are you doing? If you're hit in the front, depending on, small group, you may peel right back down the middle where the point will become, right back through the tail end and go, take us back the other way. Or you just turn around and the tail end Charlie becomes the point. But you practice all this stuff. You practice in all your signals. And every patrol, you practiced them. And you went from there. And for the most part, our teams stayed pretty much, the Corps stayed together. Our platoons had roughly 15 guys and an officer and a platoon sergeant, one corpsman and throughout most of the year, in the monsoons, like when I first got there, they were running one team that was a little larger, sometimes 10 or 11. And I guess a couple of reasons for it. I mean, they were a little newer in the area, but in the monsoons, it's harder to get in and out. And once you're in, you may not get out for a long time, and you have more support with you. And it's always you against whatever you find. So, but I want to say January is when, at the end of January, beginning of February, we went from the one team to two teams in our platoon. And in January, we were mostly Team Groucho Marx. And in February, we became Countersign and Dogma. And most of the teams changed names at that point, and we didn't change them again until mid-October. And we became Thin Man.
Now, who was coming up with these names, Rabbi?
I think our S3 or S2, and a lot of the names, and I recaptured them all between what we used at First Force, what First Recon Battalion used, and there was, and I don't, without finding the sheets, there was a big number for the battalion, a number for us, and a number that we both used, crossed over on. So there were some that nobody, and then other outfits used some of the same names. So as they rotated, but a lot of teams, our call signs became familiar to AOs, to our chopper packages. Typically, our package was two 46s, two CH-46s, and two gunships. That's a typical package for an insert or an extract. And that's normal. And when it varied from that, we used what the Army was calling the King Bee, the 34.
Yes, sir.
And we used those because 46s were having issues. I mean, some blew up in the air in the sky, but they had, rotor cracks, stress fractures, and they were taken out of service for a while and refurbished and then brought back. And I like the 46 because I like going off the tailgate rather than the damn 46 had the bar on the one side. And
Can't understand that.
Those were our two most used. Occasionally, a slick Huey, just a regular Huey, but Uh, Pretty standard was a 46. Then, as we went along in February, uh, they started getting the XM16E1, and we got the 16s, and we were learning about the 16s and working and firing, uh, and then in February, the end of February, we also got stoners to test, the Stoner 63 system, and we all the platoons got 16s. We kept some 14s. Our third platoon, Team Hateful, and classmate, got the stoners, and the rest of us got a light machine gun. So we had them. Charlie Company, a platoon in Charlie Company, and the battalion had them in a company, a grunt company, and I think the skipper was from 3-1, Lima 3-1. Those are we were the ones that tested it, and ended up having to give them back. But they worked well for, as far as we were concerned, superior. And the only thing I remember is we were told that the Marine Corps had already adopted the 16s, and that's what we'll use. And we kept the light machine guns for a period of time, but we had to get all the stoners back. And from memory, I think that's when SEALs. I'm not sure when they started getting them, but
Well, speaking of the stoners and getting the new variant of the M16, what was your opinion of the M16 when it arrived to First Force Recon?
well, when we got them, say March, April, May. That's the time period of the hill fights up at 881, 861 outside of Quezon. That's where the battles were, where the grunts were found trying to clear the jams, and a freaking disaster. A lot of good kids got killed. I want to say we were fortunate. I never had mine jam. I don't recall any of my guys having jamming issues. And there were issues that they corrected. They chromed barrels. A lot of it was with the gunpowder, with the ball ammunition, and the issues, were corrected in the 16. Guys really liked it because it was a lot lighter, and you could go, instead of say 15 magazines, now you could carry 20. Even though we only put 18 in them in a magazine, so now you're at 20 with 18 is 360 versus 15 at 20 is 300. So now I'm ahead. They got a faster rate of power. It don't have the knockdown power that a 16 got. I mean a 14. But people got to like them. They were still Matty Mattels at that time, but they evolved. But we still did keep some 14s, and we worked with the stuff. So depending where we were going, you might take a 14 or a 16, and we had to kind of keep some stuff hidden. People see, higher ranking folks might see it and say, we don't have those anymore or whatever's. But No, there were still some we had, chopped down stocks, shortened pistol grip. But the first thing, you did when you got in, like when I went, I took a 14 with me across on the ship. First thing you did when you got there, the guys are going to take the butt plate off. That's metal, that's heavy. Put rigger's tape on the butt, where the cleaning tool holes are, and rigger's tape, now they call it duct tape. I mean, I was, we used rigger's tape, green tape, but and you tape that up. You tape stuff. You cover your barrels, but uh, you learn to do all kinds of little things, and then 16s. Now you're always trying to keep it clean and keep it from getting any dirt in it. It's like having a little baby you took care of, but you wanted to do that with any kind of weapon. I mean, although 14, I mean, you could dip it in the river and all that stuff, you were fine. And
Now, weight-wise, how much weight difference between the 14 and the 16, just for the sake of the interview? I mean, how many pounds are we talking between the two?
I want to say 4. I want to say I'm thinking 11 pounds on a 14 and 6 to 7, 16. It's noticeable difference.
Absolutely, especially out in the bush.
And the length of it, the maneuverability when you have a 16 versus a 14, and a 14. The 14's got a kick to it, and fire a 14 on automatic. I mean, you best be 2-shot, 3-shot, unless you're big and stout, okay, or it's going to run on you. A 16, you can one arm a 16 on full automatic and keep control of it. So a lot of times with a 16, if I'm running a point or whatever I'm doing, I can have it in that one arm. I can part the bush. I could look, through binoculars if I need to, and not turn my weapon loose. A lot of advantages to using a 16. Which the evolution, when you got a car 15, that'd be a cat's ass having, if everybody had those. I mean, SOG was fortunately, they had them, but yeah. So we took the different weapons and we went to different places, and you got to know all the locations. And different teams, it seemed, were metal magnets. Wherever they went, somebody shot at them or tried to blow them up. And some places, no matter who went there, you got in some kind of fight. You always saw somebody. And a lot of areas, you're dealing with the 2nd NVA division and 90th Regiment. Some of that will filter down when you start finding this out, and our intelligence and our operations, had a more of a handle on who some of these groups were. We're trying to get a handle on who they are. You want to try and capture somebody. But you had different missions and what to do, what to look for. And you would get reports that there were base camps. So you would go out and you're looking for base camps, which if there's base camps, then there's supposedly lots of bad guys. Depending where you're going, are you inside the artillery fan, or do you have no support unless you can get air support? Are you working with the infantry? Uh, a lot of variations. Are you going out to typically surveil and observe as a, say, keyhole patrol, gaining information? Are you more of a contact type patrol and looking to find them and if you can call artillery in on them? You're always, if you can, you may have to set a hasty ambush if you can, or do you plan an ambush? Are you a prisoner snatch, a planned prisoner snatch? Probably most of the time don't work. People fight like hell when you try and steal them out of the jungle versus the spur of the moment scenario where the way things evolve in a firefight or you can get a hold of somebody and they can be very hectic. I was a part of gone bad ones, but that's the different types of patrols. Also, a BDA, a bomb damage, B-52s or a TPQ-10. Once they have dropped their loads, they try and get you in there almost immediately to see the results. Well, usually that's not a good thing either because what they hit or don't hit may not have totally got blown up, and it's like smacking a beehive. And when you get there, there's a whole lot of pissed off people.
That's a great way to put that.
So sometimes you get to go through your checklist and look for all the different things, and other times you may get shot out. You may get on the ground and then have a fight, but unpredictable, and you just don't know.
Well, and I was going to ask a quick question. How is the terrain impacting this? Being based in Da Nang, what kind of terrain was First Force Recon operating in with your, of course, 5th Platoon?
Typically, we're always in the mountains. I mean, you're humping mountains. You may go in at the base of a mountain. It depends on whether there's a zone a helicopter could land in. And I mean, we've landed in like scrub grass with small couple-inch thick trees. You land in bamboo, and you land in. I landed in swamps. A story that I sent to Doc Norton that'll be for his book. I mean, I don't know if I told you the other day, but we were going into the Quaison Mountains, and there's always bad guys down there. And we landed in a swamp, and we had used swamp before, and you might get 6-8 inches a foot on the perimeter. Well, this 46 came right down in the middle of this swamp, touched his wheel, and the tailgate was down. And me and the point jumped out right away. We were waist deep in, in all this muck and mud and swamp crap. And he was struggling to move, and I couldn't move. I was just flat out stuck. And as luck would have it, here comes some bad guy up on the side of this hill. He starts popping at us and shooting at us. And I'm going, I'm a sitting duck. I'm going to get shot. But Finley P. Johnson was our radio guy, and he also evolved into a assistant and a patrol leader, and strong as hell. He jumped up, grabbed me by the ranger harness, and he started dragging me. He's like a road grader, pulled me through this till we got over where it was less and less deep, and I was mobile, and we all got out and to the bush and hiding in the trees. Damn bad guy still popping at us. Couldn't tell, one or two, and I thought the guy must be cross-eyed. He didn't hit nobody, and we were over, and Finley had released the choppers, so they flew off, and because this guy's shooting at us, he calling them back. Well, he's trying to hide behind this 3-inch tree, and Finley he was better than 200 pounds, big guy. So he's sticking out all over this tree. Bad guy still firing at us. Me and the point we're looking to go, and all of a sudden Finley he jumps up and he starts dancing and he's flapping at himself, and we're going, what the hell is he doing? Well, this tree that he was on against was covered in big black ants, and they were biting the hell out of him. He didn't care if that gunner was shooting at him. He was fighting these ants, and we took off. I looked at Mike. I looked back at Finley. I kind of waved at him, see ya, and told Mike, we took off, and we went on that patrol, and a couple of days later we had several sightings, maybe 15, 20 bad guys, and we got over it, got extracted, and then we were only back a day or two, a short period, and our tail end Charlie, our assistant patrol leader, came in and said, pack your shit. We're going out tomorrow. We're going, oh man. I mean, we were just sitting with our sister team was in, so we had a couple of days together. And we had to scramble getting all our food and everything, and we got everything done, did our patrol brief, and practiced our immediate action. Crashed, got up in the morning, and we went to Elephant Valley, and we got inserted up a little valley at the base of the mountain. Damn if it wasn't another swamp, but this one was only, a few inches, less than a foot. So we took off, and first couple hours, other than being hot and sweaty and nasty, not too bad. And we were moving, and we hit a spot that was not too thick. So I would vary, butt to butt with the point if it's real thick and he's trying to get through, or I would slip back 3 meters, 5 meters, as sparse would be. I was probably about 8 meters, and he went to part some bush, and he stopped. I'm going, okay, so I'm waiting. Tell everybody, hold up, and he's not going nowhere. He's just looking around. Finally, I go up to him, and I look down, and when he had parted the bush to step through, he stepped on a punji stick. And right there was a high-speed trail. All, you could see well used, no debris on it. And called up the team. Team leader put security out on both sides of us, so nobody be walking up on us on that trail. So I got down and feel this punji stick, and I could feel back of Mikey's leg. I'm thinking, damn, I can feel the point and the barb. And I start unloosing, his boot laces. And I'm trying not to disturb this thing, and thinking that it's got his leg. And I got it loose there, and the fold inside of a jungle boot. The punji stick had gone up that fold, and that fold guided the stick right alongside of his leg and never scratched the skin. So
It's incredible.
I could feel that thing, but then no blood, no nothing. So took the stick out, fix your boot. Come on, we're getting ready, and he actually packed that punji stick, and he still has it today. And we were off. We paralleled the trail for a while and came to a couple brush-made one-man hooches and another trail, and they were used recently, so we just kept right on going. We didn't see anybody, and we were going to an area where we could use for observation down to the river and in the valley. So we humped up there, and not too bad. It was just hot as hell, and we got up there, spent the hours, and spent the night. Next day we were humping, and we were skirting around the base of the mountain, and Elephant Valley in the Garden of Eden got tons of big mountains. And once again, here comes Mikey. He stops, and he kind of looked back at me, and he's signaling, go left. I'm going, no, go forward. And he keeps doing this to me. Go left. I'm going, no, go forward. I look at my wrist compass. No, we gotta go this way. Finally, he won't budge, and I get mad. I go up, and he's at a dry stream bed that's got briars, sticker bushes, and I look down in there, and there is a giant cat, a giant tiger, just sitting on his haunches, looking up at us. And Mike had this Stoner machine gun, and this thing was only like 8 feet from us. I mean, it could have leaped and jumped on us pretty easy, and he was ready to shoot it, but the thing wasn't doing nothing. Well, I kind of looked back at the team leader. Now he's getting a case of the red ass, and he's giving me to go forward. I'm going, we're going this way. And we go through the episode again. And I'm budging. I'm going left. Finally, he comes up. He looks down. He sees that tiger. And he couldn't say, go left fast enough. Go left. Go left. I was like, as quick as we could without making a terrible amount of noise. And we were gone. And then we skirted, 50, 100 meters. We skirted back to our normal direction and honed back in where we were going. And we made it. And till then, Charlie, he was still sweating bullets. And he's worried about looking over his shoulder for this tiger. He's worried about anybody might be following us. And so that was that part of the adventure. And we spent the OP. We went and we moved to harbor site. Preliminary, and then we ate, made head calls, and then typically as dusk hits, then we'll sleep off. We'll sneak off, depending on how thick it is, 20, 25, 30 meters, into real thick stuff so that we can hide. Because as dusk is coming, if you are being followed or watched, they'll see that spot. So when we sleep off and go over here, when they show up during the night, they can't find you. And it makes it a little more peaceful. And it gets quite hairy because we already have seen where they did show up like that, and you see the silhouettes looking for you where you used to be. And anyway, this night we went over, and it was not too many meters, a few meters from a stream. And typically you want to stay away from water because bad guys are always, they'll go to water. They don't care about you. And so we were, 10, 15 meters from the water. And we were concerned, and team leader was concerned that we were tracked because earlier we had seen a man and a boy when we crossed the stream, and they took off running. We didn't know if they just ran away, if they told somebody. So the team leader got this idea that, it's dark. We're going to slip into the stream and sneak off. Oh, okay, that's not a good idea. Harboring near the water is not a good idea. Jumping in the water in the nighttime and going down it, that's not a good idea. But we're getting away. So we, as quiet as can be, we sleep over and we slip into the water, and we're all in and we're moving down the stream. And we're several meters apart, and constantly looking, you got shadows, and all of a sudden there's a big splash. I'm going, oh shit. I'm going as quick as I can, gliding up to Mike Pistorino. He took a header and went under, and held on to the stoner, and the water was cold, and it was about waist deep on us, but he's soaking wet. We went down the stream about 150 meters, and we're miserable. Finally, we get out of the water, and it's cold. It's cold, and we tried huddling up. We got into 360, and Mike was freezing. I'm freezing. Everybody's freezing. But me and Mike, we got on both sides of Finley, and we were spooning. So you got a white guy, a black guy, and a white guy. And Finley goes, "This is like a this is like a reverse Oreo. It's like, it cracked me up. But yeah, didn't really help. We were cold all night and we couldn't wait till morning when the sun would come up. But we made it through the night, and good fortune. We got word. Finley got a call that we were getting extracted. They were going to take us out, and we got out, and we still talk about those patrols. But that, I wrote that, and that's what'll be in the Voices from Vietnam book that Doc's doing. Just adventures,
Well,
lots of adventures.
I mean, definitely filled with adventures in Force Recon, either first or third. I mean, the skill, the stories, the firefights, the bumpings, the tigers. I mean, it's incredible. But a lot of people outside of those that study Force Recon, they don't know that. They don't know the Force Recon story of Vietnam.
No, even our grunts, most of them didn't know. They knew they didn't want to do it, and they know we didn't want to be with them either. But yeah, we did. We pulled a bunch of stuff with grunts. Uh, we would. They would be going to do a sweep somewhere, and we would go a couple mountains away from them, and then go through the mountains and come to where they were going to be inserted, and be kind of like a pathfinder mission to where we would surveil the area before they came. And one particular time, uh, the bad guys knew they were coming, and the bad guys were there, but they didn't realize that the bad guys didn't know we were there. So instead of them getting the grunts flying in and ambushing them, what they got was a case of fast flyers, fast movers, and a lot of jets, and then some artillery pounding them. But just another thing. I mean, and we were also we were divers. We had to work. We worked the water, and we would work with the grunts. Grunts would do a sweep. They'd push bad guys toward rivers. We'd have to dive a river, looking for weapons caches, air pockets, like a little cave type thing in the side of the river. We had to go do bridge checks. When we came in, that you didn't get a lot of free time. I mean, you were constantly training, and we'd go practice rappelling. You'd have to go dive. I could be the Army, needed a diver. But we sent guys, down south to run, PT boats, doing that stuff for helping out. They unloaded, one time we had to send guys down. They unloaded a tank off of whatever they call it, like an Amtrak or whatever a tank was coming in off the ship from. They opened up and the tank came off, but it was too far out. It wasn't close to shore yet. So they called, and we sent two guys down and dove down, hooked it up, and a big 53 pulled it out. And just different adventures. And as you go through this, you can go through the year. 1967 was a year that you still had the majority of the VC, the Viet Cong. I mean, they still had their organized units, to where Tet 68, regardless of how our media portrayed it, the VC, were pretty well decimated. and the bombing pretty much had the NBA on their knees. But
Yep.
Media, politicians, and whiny ass people at home that didn't know better, other than they wanted peace. Well, what do they know about, you know, they didn't know a lot of the ins and outs, other than now it's a televised, a lot of things are on television.
Yep.
And one, they were against it because they'd have to be a part of it since there was a draft. And personally, uh, if you got drafted, you got drafted. And if you were a conscientious objector, well, then you did a certain job. I mean, or you could go join the Peace Corps for 2 years. There were options. But the only thing that ever really bothered me was uh, those that went to Canada, you made a decision to go to Canada, you don't come back. You don't come back. There is no amnesty. I mean, which, if you look at it today, it don't matter. You know, moron running our country got open borders, but different time.
Well, and a lot of veterans share the same sentiments too that you just shared, Rabbi, about the individuals who went north to Canada. But I wanted to go back too to you mentioned 67, and outside of the home perspective of what people thought of home, 67 is a hard year for the Marine Corps in Vietnam. I mean, you've got Operation Union One, Two, Swift. You've got Operation Baxter Garden. I mean, you've got some pretty nasty operations that happen in this area.
There were quite a few, and like I said about the hill fights, I mean, them guys were in all kinds of battles. And the guy that was with me at First Force, my second tour, was with the Ninth Marines outside of Quezon during the end of the hill fights. And that was in, March, April, May, June of 67. And that was north. May, June, May, we were doing Union. And we were on Union 1, we were Union 2. And grunt units, certain ones took a beating in the Quaisans throughout the year. I mean, all these operations, and in '67 we also did a First Force did a combat jump where depending on the exact reasoning, and parts of it were availability of choppers. Part of it was the potential of doing a mass parachute jump further west by the company. And it was set to do a jump in Happy Valley. And 9 guys jumped. And Air Force plane. And 9 guys jumped. 8 guys slipped one way. 1 guy slipped the other way. And the way Happy Valley shaped, the plane, wasn't the right drop zone. The turbulence and the winds, were different. And but 8 guys went one way and one went the other way. Doc Laporte wasn't seen again. And almost all of them got hurt, and they spent one day. Four stayed on the ground, spent one day trying to find Laporte. They had loudspeakers on like an AO, and the only thing found was an old drone parachute, and I think Laporte was carried MIA 8 or 10 years, and then declared KIA. But First Force did three combat jumps. That was the second one. So that was that adventure. And we did river crossings with rubber boats. I did one with Gulf 25, taking infantry coming across the water with a recon team running patrol on the other side. And later in the year, had one where the river was so raging that boats get tipped. Guy got drowned.
Jesus.
Just we did a lot of different things. A lot of patrols, and a lot of characters. A lot of characters.
Well, I think the characters will be good for our next interview, but two, the risk within Recon was incredibly high. That's why it's volunteer based. Just knowing what you're getting involved in at any given point. I mean, you go out on these patrols, these missions. There's no guarantee you come back with that team.
No, there's no guarantee to anything. Even we had fixed OPs, radio relays, not totally secure, but it was like a rest period for a week, manning the radios and OPing, and sometimes you make a sighting. Certain OPs are, bad guys would try and slip by you. But nothing is safe. I mean, we've lost guys to lightning, lost guys to tigers, fall off a cliff, drowning. Friendly fire. People say shit happens. Well, it does. It does.
Well, you Marines definitely witnessed that more than you could have bargained for within Force Recon. I mean, after getting to know Doc, reading Doc's book, getting into contact with you, analyzing some other Force Recon sources, I've got the utmost respect for Force Recon Marines and Corpsmen for what you did out there.
I wouldn't want to do anything else. But it's not for everybody. And, if it was one of the things where it was deemed that you, an individual, wasn't up to it and wanted to go to the grunts, I mean, they would probably just, send you to the grunts. If it was deemed that this person don't belong here, they would shit can you. I mean, we've had a lieutenant disappear real quick. A couple guys here and there, but for the most part, you would see 99.9 the guys went about their business. They weren't overtly concerned and sweating to death that they had to go. The stress was there 24/7. I mean, the stress started when you got an op order that says you're going this place or that place. Okay. Now all that stress because you know the areas and you're stressed all the way through it, whether there's anything hairy, scary, nothing at all. And you're just humping a mountain. Some call it a dry hole where you don't, find nothing. The stress don't end. It just don't end. And for the most part, guys just kept going about their business. One, we were young, we were invincible, and some folks began, they drank more, but nah, great people, and I did it again. I went home and went back again and met a whole nother set of that's when I was with Doc in my second tour.
Well, Rabbi, with stories you've got, and I know, of course, with what you and I have talked about previously, I know that we've got a lot to work with here about your time in country with your 2 tours, and I know it's getting late. But the last little question I have for today, speaking of some characters, you yourself are a character if you think about it. So how did your nickname come about?
A couple people just say from my last name, but in pictures that I have around, we got a guy late February, early March, Rocky Schmidt, big guy from Minnesota. And when I had first got there, I met a guy that he was a short timer, never went nowhere anymore, but he would always volunteer to go burn the shitters. I'm going, why do you do that every day? He says, see when the guys are in, he said, they start snatching everybody up. I need 2 from you and 2 for volunteer. And then you end up sandbagging for like 8 hours doing sandbags and doing this. And you're on a working party all day long. He said, I volunteer, I burn the shitters, takes me 2 hours. I go take a shower. I'm done for the day. Okay. So we would come in from the bush and, I was a snuffy at the time and it was like, okay, so I would do that. Well, here comes Big Rocky. So I started telling him this philosophy and I was showing him what to do. And he said, that's like a rabbi for teaching. And I always attribute it to him with teaching, which we did teach him how to do all the packing and running the bush and all that. But directly to him, it was like teaching him to burn the shitters. So that's how I always remember it. Probably nobody else's nickname came out of that unless somebody's name is like shithead or something. I don't know. But that's where it come from.
No,
But it stuck. Some people, that's all they know me by. I mean, in Doc's one book, that's all it's in there. Rabbi.
well, even then, I mean, in Dog's book, it's the name, the character there too. At the same time, I mean, I don't know how many people can say they got their nickname from the advice they gave about burning shitters.
That's right. Nobody I know. Nobody I know.
Well, with that being said, Rabbi, I'll be in touch. We will either pick this up perhaps later this week, this weekend. But thank you for your service and sincerely welcome home, Rabbi.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
So This will be great. Kids are going to love it, and I loved it myself. But I'm looking forward to diving more into your first tour, especially in the May and in the summer of '67. I'm real curious as to what you were up to then.
All righty.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye now.